Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another movie review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the 2014 movie Last Shift. Why am I looking at a movie made in 2014? Well, you'll just have to wait until the end of the review to figure that one out because who doesn't like a cliffhanger? Last Shift has an IMDb rating of 5.8 out of 10 and is directed by Anthony DeBlasi. And the only main cast we really follow here is Jessica Lauren, as she is the officer who is assigned the last shift get it, of the old station before the force shift over to their new digs in the fancy massage chairs. Probably. The movie starts off with Jessica's helicopter mom getting onto her for becoming a cop, so great job, mom. Way to support your kids' dreams. And one of the first things Jessica sees upon entering the station is her presumed boss absolutely losing it. This seems like an absolutely lovely work environment. Officer Cohen explains to her that all 911 calls have already been rerouted to the new station, so all she has to worry about is the occasional walk-up until she asks the question we're all thinking about, that being, why don't they just hire a security guard to watch the place tonight? And well, Jessica, that's because they don't hire outside help since they have a flood of officers anyway. Duh. He also points out that Hazmat will be there to clean anytime between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And Jesus, what a time frame.
Be home? How about between the hours of 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. all of November?
All of a sudden the phone starts ringing, but I thought that all the calls were going to be rerouted to the new station. But before Jessica can get any more info out of the call, it goes dead. Spooky. Later on, Jessica tries to have a snack, but there's a massive hair in there, which, if it's her sandwich, would that just not be her hair? Which doesn't make it great, but I'm not gonna vomit because of it. Just eat around it. Now Jessica hears a knocking coming from the front of the station, and it's just a homeless man relieving himself, and
I can't talk right now. I'm making piss.
now it's time for some police brutality, as she just gently lets him outside. Jessica goes explore the bathroom, only to see that some people have a really hard time at aiming, as that bad boy is destroyed.
Uh-oh. Stinky.
Just like mine, every time I go to Taco Bell.
Skip it up and down.
She then stumbles into the locker room where she finds a photo of a man and his daughter at the park, to which she almost takes it, but then places it back by the locker, only to see that all the other lockers opened up while she was looking at the picture. How? Did you not hear any of those? But now the phone rings again, and it's the same person from before, only this time we learn her name is Monica and she's at a pig ranch, and the call goes down yet again. Man, the cell service must really suck at this station.
Can you hear me now?
Jessica calls the news station to let them know she keeps getting calls, but they couldn't really care less. And now more spooky stuff happens, like heavy filing cabinets just moving on their own, and all the lights go out because everyone's favorite homeless man has returned. And I don't know if this man is the reincarnation of Harry Houdini, but how does he keep breaking into a police station? But now, it's time for the real police brutality. Let's go. And unfortunately for Jessica, she gets locked in the cell with the homeless man, but that's nothing that a taser can't fix. And oh sweet baby Jesus, creepy bag man on the other side of the door window. And silly homeless man, it turns out that he took Jessica's flashlight, only the light soon pans over to show that the homeless man is indeed not the one holding the light. So if you're there and I'm here, then who is? Oh, it's more creepy bag-faced people. After Jessica manages to get out of the cell, she calls Officer Cohen, possibly to tell him about all the weird stuff that's going on, but instead just tells him how happy she is to be a part of the force, which I would argue is probably a weirder reason to call in the middle of the night. And it's exposition dump time, baby, let's go! And that comes in the form of a lady of the night named Marigold saying how they brought in the Walmart version of the Manson family and the Paymans, to which they Epstein themselves in the cell room. Hopefully I don't have to go into too much detail of what that means. It appears that someone has turned the conference room TV to the cult channel as all the TVs start playing the interrogation videos from the Paymans that were brought back to the station. And long story short, Payman is the king of hell, and that is who they worship. And oh boy, the phone is ringing again. I hope it's the pizza delivery guy, but nope, it's just Monica again. God, why does she keep calling? Desperate much? But Monica starts singing the song that the payment worshippers were singing, and Jessica decides to put on her detective cap and tries to get more information out of Monica, learning that her last name is Young, that she's 17, and even finds out that John Michael Payman is where she is. Jessica calls the news station and provides the full name of Monica Young, to which she's given a case number and told to call back later. Now Jessica has convinced herself that this is all one big joke by the other officers until a stray officer shows up. That officer being Ryan Price, who's there to make sure she's alright, which she definitely doesn't seem to be. There is just a bunch of back and forth yada yada until Ryan says that he knew her father and that he was actually there when the Payman raid went down, that the Payman clan opened fire, taking 6 girls and 2 officers with them, one of which being her father. But as Officer Price turns around to leave, he's kinda missing the back of his skull, almost as if he had just been shot. It also doesn't help the fact that he disappears around the corner, further sending Jessica into a mental spiral. I guess you could say that reveal was pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Then this dude here in the lobby decides to do the reverse Michael Jackson lean, but unfortunately for him, Jessica's not very impressed. And remember how the homeless man was still locked in the cell? Well, let's just say he's not alone in the cell anymore, and at this point, it has hit the fan, even with the circle of girls who look like they were just plucked right out of an episode of Little House on the Prairie, only with super creepy masks as well. And oh boy, would you believe it, but she sees the clothes of some of the Payman worshippers in the evidence room. So now it's clear that this whole time they were just wanting to get their sick leather jacket back. And now Jessica has a pretty solid idea to go wait in her car in the parking lot. Only she's only outside for about 3 seconds before she comes running back in for some reason. A sense of duty maybe? But there was no other reason for her to go back in there. But of course, like an obsessive girlfriend, Monica calls once again, to which this time she says she managed to escape, but the line goes dead again. Why is the signal so bad? Upgrade. Get Verizon, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
And now for the big reveal, Monica Young is dead. Dun dun dun. Jessica finds this out by calling the news station, and they tell her that she was the final victim of the Payman family. And the officer on the other end of the line finally decides to tell her that the Payman family wasn't killed on the scene. They committed forever sleep in the holding cell at the station, and ever since they did, there's been strange occurrences in the station ever since. Congratulations, officer, way to leave this out. And just to be super assholes, the spirits or whatever drop a picture of her dead father in front of her, along with all the other crime scene photos from that day. But due to the mental stress of it all, Jessica passes out only to wake up and realize that she's not the only one in there. But not only is she not the only one in there, she's also missing her utility belt, which happens to have her gun in it. That's an oopsie. Upon running after the figure though in the station, she gets knocked out and dragged into an interrogation room by some strange woman. And oh boy, she's a crazy follower of John Michael Payman. And she's gone completely off the deep end and also commits forever sleep. So I guess she was real, but at the same time she also created a real mess. Am I right, guys? Now the phone is going crazy, and who's on the other end but Monica? And the whole charade is up now as Jessica manages to back herself into probably the worst possible place with nowhere to go, as we can see the spirit of Monica just kinda moving around. And maybe she should have stayed outside, because now the doors have been super glued together and now suck up bullets. This isn't good. And now she gets a call from her dad as he berates her for trying to leave. I'm sorry though, but if my ghost dad tries to tell me to get back into the haunted station, well, looks like I'm just gonna disappoint him one more time from beyond the grave. And homeless man is just kinda hanging out with the devils, if you get my drift, with devil scribbles all over the wall. As this is the part where everything goes haywire. With Jessica trapped in the cell, a video of their final ritual begins to play on a sheet in the middle of the room. And now it's final boss time. And the cult keeps using her dad as a way to guilt trip her into staying, which, screw these guys, that's such a low blow. And Ghost Dad tells her that they are going to be coming. Those people being the living worshippers as they begin to storm the station. Jessica manages, however, to pick off a few of them before being shot by Officer Cohen. But why? Well, it could be that instead of shooting Payman worshippers, she was actually shooting the hazmat guys due to the fact that she had become so mentally broken by the cult. Also, Screw Officer Cohen. If he had just shown up earlier, this could have all been avoided, but no, he wanted to get his beauty sleep so he can continue looking like the bottom side of a foot. And the movie ends with the three main cultists reappearing and placing a bag over the head of Jessica, as the cult likely claims its final victim, and that is the last shift. And this is review time. And now comes the time you have all been waiting for, the reasoning as to why I have decided to review this movie that came out in 2014. Well, let me go ahead and hop right on into the review, and you shall see. For the plot, it gets a full 3 out of 3 for me. It is so good, and the reason that I like this movie so much, first, don't get me wrong, I think cults are incredibly fascinating. So most movies that involve cults are usually already kind of have a little bit of a boost because cults are just so confusing and fascinating to me at the same time. So that helps it a lot. But the fact that this movie takes place in one central location, it just really shows you how much you can do with so little. Because most horror movie nowadays, they try to go way over the top, try to do all this special effects and stuff, and try to make things that are hard to imagine in the mind so that it really kind of creates this sense of horror because it's something you may not have seen before. But the plot is super, super solid. She's a woman who is trying to become a respected police officer so she can keep up the spirit of her dad, who was such a great officer, and she wants to make him proud. It's just she happens to work the last shift at a cult-infested police station. And the plot is super solid. There's not any glaring holes in it. It's not like there's any point in the movie where you're watching it and you're going, well, why is this happening? Or why is that happening? And you can see it progressing throughout the movie, how it's really kind of messing with her mind and it's causing her to kind of lose track on everything that's going on. And it just does such a great job of staying true to itself, not trying to do anything too much. It's a movie about a woman in a police station that's infested with a cult spirit. That's the bread and butter of it. It doesn't defer from that. It doesn't go off on some random tangent about how the spirit that was cast by the cult is also like the baker from down the street and he's an axe murderer who also donates to charity. It stays simple, it knows what it's doing, and that's why it gets a 3 out of 3 for me, because it's solid. It stays solid, and it's such a good plot. For the acting, it was so close. It got a 2.5 out of 3 for me. Everyone was super solid in it. I feel like the main character did a great job throughout the entire movie. She was super believable. She was super empathetic. You could understand her reasoning for wanting to stay there and stick it out and gut it out because she was wanting to make her dad proud. She had a reason to do everything, and it was so good. The only thing that really brings it down just a little bit is when we do get to the cult characters, it doesn't necessarily say where this movie takes place, but they are super southern, like super, super southern. So if this takes place in Alabama, that's fine. But if this takes place in any state above South Carolina, then it just makes it kind of hard to believe the cultists. Just because they talk in a southern accent doesn't mean that they automatically joined a cult. Some of us are just born with it. So that's the only thing that really kind of brings it down. Also, this stupid, I don't even know what to call it. It's not a turn of phrase, just the crazy lady that knocked out Jessica says she's as crazy as a snail in a tin can. What does that mean? I've never heard that before. I looked that up. I don't know what that came from. Did they have her make it up on the spot? I mean, what's going on here? So 2.5 out of 3 on the acting for me. It was almost there, but I just feel like it brought it down just a little bit. For the cinema, it gets a 3 out of 3 for me. It is super clean throughout the entirety of the movie. The visual effects on the characters, on their faces is so good. It's so clean. It's so eerie, and the fact that the whole location is just this police station, but yet it feels so big. At the same time, it feels so enclosed with all the tight spaces and all the harsh corners, and you never know what's around the corner, and it's just such a good environment for this movie. It gives you that feeling of claustrophobia, while at the same time, it feels like this place goes on forever. I feel like the cinematography was super good. All the camera shots were super clean. They didn't do any Cloverfield stuff where they're shaking it around for visual effects. It's all super clean. The cinematography, the character design, I cannot get over how good that it is. The whole reason I watched this movie in the first place was because of the pentagram on the person's face, and it's just so good in all of those aspects. It does enough to creep you out without having to be overboard with it. They didn't go, oh, you know what would make it spookier than just the pentagram on the face? What if he had bat wings coming out of his ears? What if he had 6 arms coming out of his left butt cheek? Like, they're not trying to do anything over the top with that. It's bare bones. It's simple, it's to the point, and it is so good. And then for the bonus point, it's getting the full bonus point. It's such a good movie. It is all filmed in one location. It doesn't try to do too much. It has that low budget feel to it without looking like somebody recorded it on an iPhone. It's so good. And I like cults, so you can also give it that if you want to. But it's such a good movie. It gets the bonus point for any of the reasons that I just listed off. It's super solid, super straight to the point, and my god is it a good movie. And now down to the final score. For some of those of you who don't want to do the math, don't worry, I've got a calculator right here. If we take the 3 from the plot, the 2.5 from the acting, the 3 from the cinema, and the 1 bonus point, we're walking out of here with a 9.5 out of 10. A 9.5 out of 10. That is almost perfect. Of course, the IMDb score was 5.8 out of 10, but this movie, in my opinion, could very well possibly be my favorite horror movie that I've watched in a long time. And I know some of y'all may not agree with that. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's so good to me. I appreciate the fact that it stays true to what it is. It doesn't try to go overboard. It has an idea that it wants to get out, and it gets that out. It gets it clean, it does it right, and it does it to the point. It doesn't have to do all this extra stuff. It's so bare bones, and it's so direct. It's just such a good movie. If I have to recommend anybody go watch a horror movie, it needs to be this one. I enjoyed this movie so much, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But I feel like you have to watch this movie because in my opinion, it's such a good movie. It's such a good horror movie. It bucks the trend of doing all this extra other stuff, and I highly recommend you go watch this. So that is my review for the movie Last Shift. If you have any other suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I know my last week's video was a Am I the Jerk video. I make videos about what I want to, and that's what I'm always gonna do. I do whatever I think is fun. So thank you to all who decided to stop by and listen to this. If you thought that I had a good rating on this movie, let me know. If you don't like this movie, I don't care. But I do appreciate you coming in and watching, listening, however you decide to intake this video. I'm almost to 1,000 subs. It has been so fun making these videos. I hope that y'all all enjoy them. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one.